I never planned to destroy my parents' perfect anniversary night, but standing in the shadows of the Chicago ballroom, watching them dance like it was still 1985, the weight of my secret became unbearable. One step toward that microphone, and everything I had hidden for 27 years would come crashing down. The crystal ballroom at the Drake Hotel glowed under crystal chandeliers, the air thick with the scent of white roses and aged scotch. My mother, Eleanor Harper, spun in a champagne silk gown, laughing at something my father, Richard, whispered in her ear. 30 years of marriage, 2 kids, a successful law practice, and the picture-perfect life they had built in Lincoln Park. I was supposed to be the proud son raising a toast in 10 minutes. Instead, I clutched the note cards in my pocket like a shield, each word a lie I could no longer speak. Tyler stood 3 tables away, looking devastating in a navy suit that matched his quiet smile. To everyone else, he was my best friend from college, the loyal roommate who helped me move into my Lakeview apartment last year. Only he and I knew the truth. For 14 months, he had been the reason I woke up smiling and the reason I stayed awake at night terrified. He caught my eye across the room and gave the smallest nod, the one that said, "You don't have to do this tonight." But I did. My older brother, Connor, clapped me on the shoulder hard enough to jolt the note cards. "Nervous, little bro? Mom's been bragging all week about how her architect's son is going to give the speech of the decade." He laughed, but his eyes lingered a second too long, the same way they had since Thanksgiving when he'd caught Tyler's hand brushing mine under the table. I forced a grin, just making sure I don't embarrass Dad in front of his golf buddies. Across the dance floor, my sister, Brooke, waved from her table with her husband and their toddler. She still sent me links to dating apps every Sunday, convinced I was too picky after my last breakup 3 years ago. The breakup that never happened because there had never been a girlfriend. Only Tyler. Only stolen weekends in Door County and whispered promises that we would tell my family when the time was right. The time had never felt right. Mom spotted me and beckoned, her diamond earrings catching the light. "Ryan, honey, come take a picture with us before the speeches start." I walked over, pasting on the smile I had perfected since I was 16, and realized the way I looked at the swim team captain wasn't the way my friends looked at girls. Dad pulled me into a one-armed hug, his cologne the same one he'd worn my whole life. "Proud of you, son. This speech means everything to your mother." I swallowed the lump in my throat. Everything. That word had become a cage. The MC tapped the mic. "Ladies and gentlemen, in just a few moments we'll hear from the Harper children. But first, let's give a round of applause for the couple who started it all." Applause thundered. Tyler's gaze met mine again, steady and loving. And for one reckless second, I considered grabbing his hand right there in front of the entire room. Instead, I stepped back into the shadows, heart hammering against the note cards that read, "Mom, Dad, thank you for teaching me what real love looks like." The words tasted like ash. I slipped out to the terrace for air. Chicago's skyline glittered beyond the railing, the lake a dark mirror. Tyler followed a minute later, keeping the respectful distance we always did in public. "You're shaking," he said softly. "We can leave right now. Fake a migraine. I'll drive." I shook my head. They deserve the truth on their day, not another lie dressed up as a toast. He reached out, fingertips brushing my wrist when no one could see. "Then I'm right here. Whatever you decide." Inside, the band struck up at last. Mom and Dad swayed in the center of the floor, lost in each other the way I wanted to be lost in Tyler without apology. I watched them and felt the crack widen inside my chest. 27 years of Sunday dinners, little league games, college tuition, and quiet expectations that I would bring home a nice girl and continue the Harper name. Connor appeared at the terrace door. "They're about to call you, man. You good?" I turned, the Chicago wind whipping my tie. "Yeah, I'm good." But I wasn't, because in 2 minutes I would either keep hiding the man I loved or step onto that stage and watch my parents' perfect night shatter. And I had no idea which choice would hurt more. The MC's voice boomed again. "And now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ryan Harper." I walked back inside, the note cards burning a hole in my pocket. Tyler's eyes never left me. The entire room turned, smiling, expectant. My mother beamed. My father raised his glass already. I took the first step toward the microphone. The spotlight hit me like a spotlight on a criminal about to confess. 200 faces blurred into one collective smile of anticipation. My heels clicked across the polished oak floor, each step echoing the countdown in my head. 10 paces to the mic, 9. 8. I reached the small wooden stand and gripped it until my knuckles whitened. The note cards trembled in my free hand. Mom mouthed, "We love you," from the front row. Dad nodded, proud. Connor gave me a thumbs up. Brooke lifted her phone to record. And Tyler sat 3 tables back, hands folded, the only person in the room who knew I was about to detonate our lives. "Thank you all for coming tonight," I began, voice steadier than I felt. The words on the card swam. 30 years ago, my parents stood in a little church in Evanston and promised to love each other through everything. And they have. They taught me what commitment looks like. Polite applause rippled. I paused, heart slamming so hard I wondered if the mic picked it up. They taught me honesty matters more than anything. The room quieted a fraction. Mom tilted her head, curious. I set the note cards down. They weren't going to save me tonight. "Mom, Dad, I've spent my whole life trying to make you proud. Top of my class. Full scholarship to Northwestern. The architecture firm downtown that just promoted me to senior associate. I did it all because I wanted you to see the son you raised. But there's something I never told you. Something I've carried since I was 15 and realized the way I felt about my best friend wasn't the way other boys felt about their best friends." A few people shifted in their seats. A nervous chuckle from Uncle Greg in the back. I kept going. "I'm gay." The word left my mouth and the ballroom froze. No gasps yet, just the heavy silence of 200 people processing a sentence they never expected. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. Dad's face went blank, the way it did in court when a witness said something impossible. Connor's thumbs up dropped to his side like a broken wing. I didn't stop. I've hidden it because I was terrified of hurting you. Terrified of losing the family I love more than anything. But hiding has cost me more than I can say. It's cost me nights I could have spent holding the man I love instead of pretending he's just my roommate. "Tyler." I looked straight at him. He stood slowly, eyes shining with pride and fear. Tyler has been my partner for over a year. He's the reason I smile when I walk through my door. And tonight, I couldn't stand here and lie to you on the day that celebrates your love. Now the gasps came, sharp and scattered. A wine glass clinked too loudly as someone set it down. Mom's eyes filled with tears that hadn't decided whether they were from shock or betrayal. Dad stared at Tyler like he was seeing him for the first time. I gripped the mic harder. "I know this isn't the speech you expected. I know some of you might leave this room angry or disappointed. But I couldn't keep pretending anymore. Not on your anniversary. Not when your love taught me that real love doesn't hide." The silence stretched. Then, from the back, someone started clapping. Slow at first. I couldn't see who. Another pair of hands joined. Then another. Tyler stepped forward through the tables, applause following him like a wave. He reached the stage steps and looked up at me, tears on his cheeks. I stepped down to meet him. Our hands found each other in front of everyone. No more hiding. The applause grew louder, uneven, some people standing, others still frozen. Mom covered her face with both hands now. Dad hadn't moved. Connor rose suddenly, chair scraping. "Ryan, what the hell?" His voice carried over the growing noise. I turned to him, still holding Tyler's hand. "I'm sorry, Con. I'm sorry I didn't trust you with this sooner." The MC stood awkwardly at the side, unsure whether to cut the mic. I looked back at my parents. "I love you both, more than you'll ever know. And I hope one day you can love me exactly as I am." Mom lowered her hands. Tears streamed down her perfect makeup. She didn't speak. Dad's jaw worked like he was chewing on every expectation he'd ever had for me. The applause faltered, uncertain now, waiting for their reaction. Tyler squeezed my fingers. "You did it," he whispered. I had. And the night had only just begun. The applause died in awkward patches. People glanced at one another, unsure whether to keep clapping or pretend the last 3 minutes hadn't happened. Mom stood first. She walked toward the stage on unsteady heels, the silk gown whispering against the floor. When she reached me, she didn't hug me. She just looked at Tyler and then back at me, eyes red. "Ryan Michael Harper," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "We're going to talk about this later." Then she turned to the room, forced the brightest smile I'd ever seen her manufacture, and announced, "Thank you all for sharing our special night. Please enjoy dessert." The band struck up something upbeat too quickly. Waiters appeared with chocolate towers and champagne. Conversation exploded in frantic whispers. I stayed rooted beside Tyler, his hand still in mine, the only solid thing in the spinning room. Dad didn't come over. He sat back down, stared at his plate, and motioned for the waiter to refill his scotch. Connor marched straight to us, face flushed. "Outside. Now." We followed him to the same terrace where I'd stood earlier. The night air felt colder. Connor rounded on me the second the door clicked shut. "You chose tonight? Their 30th? You couldn't have picked literally any other day in the last 10 years. "I tried," I said quietly. "Every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, every time Mom asked when I was bringing a girl home. I choked every single time." Tyler stepped closer. "He was protecting you all." Connor laughed, sharp and bitter. "Protecting us? Or protecting himself? Dad's firm has clients who still think it's 1950. You just dropped a bomb on the family business, too." "That's not fair," I shot back. "This isn't about the business. It's about me finally breathing." Brooke appeared in the doorway, toddler on her hip. "Guys, people are staring. Mom's holding it together by a thread. Dad just told Uncle Greg he needs air." She looked at me, eyes soft despite everything. "Ree, is this real? You and Tyler?" I nodded. "It's real." She shifted the baby and hugged me one-armed. "I love you. We'll figure it out. But right now, Mom needs you to come back inside and act like everything's okay until the guests leave." Tyler's thumb stroked the back of my hand. "I can wait in the car." "No," I said. "You're not hiding anymore either." Inside, the party had fractured into islands of gossip. My college roommate from Northwestern caught my eye and raised his glass in quiet support. He'd known since sophomore year. A few cousins whispered behind programs. Mom circulated like a pro, laughing at jokes that weren't funny, touching shoulders, steering conversations away from me. When the last guest finally trickled out around midnight, the ballroom staff began stacking chairs. Mom turned to us, mascara streaked. "Home. All of you. Now." Dad drove in silence. Connor followed in his own car. Tyler and I rode with Brooke, the baby asleep in the car seat between us. No one spoke. The city lights blurred past. I kept waiting for the yelling to start, but it didn't. Not yet. At the Lincoln Park house, the same one I'd grown up in, the foyer light clicked on like a stage light. Mom kicked off her heels. "Kitchen. Everyone." We sat around the oak table where we'd eaten Sunday pancakes for 20 years. Dad poured himself another drink. Mom folded her hands. "Start from the beginning, Ryan." So I did. I told them about the swim team captain in high school, the panic attacks in college when I dated girls to fit in, the night I met Tyler at a charity 5K and felt like I'd finally come home. I told them about the nights I cried in my car after family dinners because I wanted to bring him inside. I told them I was sorry for lying, but not sorry for loving him. Dad stared into his glass the whole time. When I finished, he spoke for the first time since the ballroom. "I need time." Then he stood and walked upstairs. Mom's voice cracked. "I don't know how to do this, sweetheart. I always pictured your wedding. Grandkids. The whole story. And now," she trailed off, wiping her eyes. "I love you, but I'm grieving the future I thought we had." Connor shook his head. "You blindsided us." On their night, Brooke reached across the table and took my hand. "He's still our brother." The clock struck 2. Mom stood. "We'll talk more tomorrow. Tyler, you're welcome to stay in the guest room." She paused. "For tonight." Tyler thanked her quietly. Upstairs in my childhood bedroom, the same posters still hung on the walls. I lay awake staring at the ceiling while Tyler slept in a room down the hall. My phone buzzed. A text from Dad. "We'll get through this. I love you, son." Tears burned my eyes. The first crack of light. But I knew the real storm was only beginning. Morning light filtered through the same blue curtains I'd had since I was 10. I found Tyler in the kitchen making coffee like he belonged there, which he didn't yet. Mom sat at the table in her robe, eyes puffy but composed. She slid a mug toward me. Your father went for a walk. He'll be back. Connor had left at dawn for work, leaving a note that said only, call me later. Brooke had taken the baby home. The house felt hollow. Tyler set a plate of toast in front of Mom. Mrs. Harper, I know this is a lot. I'm not here to replace anyone. I just love your son. She studied him for a long moment. Call me Eleanor. And thank you for the coffee. Small mercies. Dad returned an hour later, cheeks red from the cold. He looked at Tyler, then at me. Let's talk of my study. The study smelled of leather and old books. Dad closed the door. I spent 30 years building a name people respect. Clients who trust me with their divorces, their companies, their futures. Last night, half of them watched my son announce he's gay in front of God and the Drake Hotel. I braced myself. He continued, but the other half clapped. And the ones who didn't, they're not my problem anymore. He rubbed his face. I'm not saying I understand everything. I'm not saying it's easy, but you're my son. And if Tyler makes you happy, then we figure it out. Family first. Always. The relief hit me so hard my knees almost buckled. Dad pulled me into a rough hug, the kind he hadn't given since I left for college. When we stepped out, Mom was waiting in the hallway. She hugged Tyler. Awkward. Brief. Real. The next week blurred. Work was a minefield. My boss called me on Monday morning. The partners saw the video someone posted. We don't discriminate, Ryan, but some clients might. Just keep it professional. I kept it professional. And I kept Tyler's hand in mine when we walked down Michigan Avenue that Friday night. For the first time in public. But not everyone adjusted so quickly. Uncle Greg stopped returning Dad's calls. Connor canceled our usual Saturday basketball game with a vague text. And my ex from college, Sarah, messaged me out of nowhere. I always wondered. Hope you're happy. The real test came 2 weeks later at the firm's holiday party. I brought Tyler as my date. No hiding. Some colleagues smiled. Others stared. One senior partner pulled me aside. Bold move, Harper. Hope it doesn't cost you the Chicago project. It didn't. We won the project anyway. Because my designs were good, not because of who I loved. Christmas arrived with its own tension. Mom set an extra place at the table without being asked. Tyler brought his famous pecan pie. Dad carved the turkey and asked Tyler about his teaching job. Connor showed up late, hugged me hard, and whispered, sorry I was an ass. Love you, man. Under the tree, I gave Tyler a key to my apartment. He gave me a framed photo of us at the top of the Willis Tower, the city sparkling behind us. Mom watched us open gifts and wiped her eyes again, but this time she smiled. Still, something lingered. A distance. A question in her eyes when she thought I wasn't looking. New Year's Eve, we hosted a small dinner at my place. Brooke, Connor, Mom, Dad, Tyler. At midnight, we raised glasses. Dad looked at Tyler and me. To new beginnings. Mom added softly. And to loving our son exactly as he is. The words settled over the room like fresh snow. Healing. Slow, but real. Yet the story wasn't over. Because 2 days later my phone rang with a number I hadn't seen in years. My first love from high school. The one who had sworn he'd never come out. He said only, I saw the video. I need to talk. And just like that, the past I thought I buried came knocking, threatening everything I had finally built. His name was Caleb. We'd been 17, terrified, stealing kisses behind the bleachers after track practice. He'd moved to Seattle after graduation and disappeared from my life. Now his voice on the phone sounded older, heavier. I'm in Chicago for work. Can we meet? I agreed to coffee near the river. Tyler offered to come, but I said no. Some ghost you face alone. Caleb looked the same, but worn. We sat outside despite the January cold. He stirred his latte and didn't look at me. I saw what you did at your parents' party. The whole internet saw it. I've been hiding for 10 years. Married a woman. 2 kids. And every day, I hate myself a little more. He wanted advice. Forgiveness. A roadmap I didn't have. I told him the truth. Coming out didn't fix everything. It just stopped the bleeding. The rest was work. He cried. I hugged him. And when I got home, Tyler waited on the couch, without questions. I told him everything. He listened, then pulled me close. You gave him hope. That's what you do now. You give people hope. The next morning, Mom called. Your Uncle Greg wants to meet. He saw the video too. Says he has something to say. We met at the same ballroom, empty now except for a few staff setting up for another event. Uncle Greg sat at the same table where he'd been that night. He didn't waste time. I was wrong to turn my back. My own brother came out in the 80s. Lost everything. I swore it wouldn't happen in our family. But watching you stand up there, you were braver than he ever got to be. He slid an envelope across the table. Inside was a check for my college loans, paid in full. Consider it 30 years of interest on the love I should have shown sooner. I cried in the car on the way home. Tyler drove, one hand on my knee. Work offered me the lead on a new community center project focused on LGBTQ youth. I accepted. The first design meeting, Tyler sat in the audience as a guest speaker about inclusive education. Watching him talk about the kids he taught filled me with a pride I'd never felt before. Spring came. Cherry blossoms lined the lakefront. Mom started inviting Tyler to his Sunday brunch without prompting. Dad asked his advice on retirement investments. Connor brought his new girlfriend over, and she high-fived Tyler like they'd known each other forever. One Saturday in May, we drove to the dunes. Tyler and I walked the beach at sunset, shoes off, waves licking our ankles. He stopped, turned to me, and dropped to one knee right there in the sand. "Ryan Harper, you changed my life the day you stopped hiding. Marry me?" I said yes before he finished the question. The ring was simple platinum. Perfect. We called my parents from the car on the way back. Mom screamed. Dad laughed for the first time in months. Brooke immediately started planning. The wedding was small, just family and close friends, at the same ballroom where it all began. Mom walked me down the aisle. Dad walked Tyler. When the officiant asked if anyone objected, the room stayed silent except for Connor's quiet cheer. We danced our first dance to the same song Mom and Dad had played that night. At last, as the music swelled, I looked at Tyler and saw our whole future. The fights we'd still have. The kids we might adopt. The holidays around that oak table. The life we had fought for. Later, on the terrace where I'd once stood terrified, Tyler wrapped his arms around me. "No more hiding," he whispered. "No more hiding," I answered. The reception lights twinkled above us like stars we'd earned. Guests laughed, clinked glasses, and for the first time in my life, every smile felt real. Mom danced with Tyler, her head on his shoulder, and when the song ended, she kissed his cheek. Dad pulled me aside near the bar. "I was scared that night," he admitted. "Scared of what people would say. Scared I'd failed you somehow. But watching you two tonight, I see now. This is the family we were always meant to have." Connor raised a toast later. "To my brother and his husband, the bravest man I know, and to Tyler, who somehow puts up with him." Laughter rippled. Even Uncle Greg clapped loudest. As the night wound down Tyler, and I slipped outside one last time. The Chicago skyline glittered the same way it had 11 months earlier, but everything had changed. We stood in silence for a moment, hands linked. Then Tyler said, "You know, that night you stepped on stage, I thought I might lose you. Instead, I got all of you. Every piece." I leaned into him, and I got my family back. The real one. We drove home to our apartment, the one with both our names on the lease now. The key turned easy. Inside, our life waited. His lesson plans on the table, my blueprints spread across the desk, our future stacked in boxes labeled for the bigger place we'd tour next week. Months later, the adoption agency called. A little boy needed a home. We said yes without hesitation. Life kept moving. Some clients still raised eyebrows. Some relatives still sent polite but distant cards. But the love around our table every Sunday grew louder, fuller. Mom taught Tyler her secret lasagna recipe. Dad took him golfing. Brooke's daughter called us both uncle. And every anniversary of that night, we returned to the Crystal Ballroom. We danced in the same spot where I had once stood terrified. Each year, the memory hurt a little less and felt like victory a little more. One quiet evening years later, our son asleep upstairs, Tyler and I sat on the back porch watching fireflies. He asked, "Any regrets?" I thought of every tear, every fight, every second I'd spent hiding. Then I looked at the man beside me and the life we had built and answered honestly. Only that I waited so long to step onto that stage. True or false? Revealing your true self to family is always the right choice, no matter the cost.